Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David, and welcome to all of our listeners around the country and around the world, and welcome to episode 273, which is going to be another 2 episodes. This week is the part 1, and next week will be part 2 of the tremendous personal work that Sara Session did with David and our beloved co-teacher on the Tuesday group, Jill Lovett. And we want to introduce you guys to our listeners. Sara, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us why you decided to do personal work with David and Jill.
Hi, my name is Sara Session, as Rhonda said. I am a marriage and family therapist in Stockton, California, in private practice. And I have been attending the Tuesday group for, I would say, almost 4.5 years now. And love it, love every minute of it. And I decided to do personal work because during one of our small group sessions, I volunteered to do the Interpersonal Downward Arrow because that particular day, earlier that day, I had been very, very anxious of this idea of meeting my high school classmates. And just the possibility of meeting them was causing me anxiety, which I thought was concerning to me, why I was so anxious. And so I decided to volunteer and explore those feelings and what thoughts I was having that were causing those strong, really strong anxiety, really strong feelings. And so Jill was my small group leader. And after the group was over, offered to do personal work because she knew I needed it, or she could tell that from my just the small work we did during a small group. She thought perhaps I could benefit from it. And I took her up on it because I really did want to address this and find out why I had so much anxiety over something as simple as thinking about possibly meeting these classmates, which I had not seen for like 37 years, most of them, or even stayed in touch with any of them. So, I don't know what else to add here, but so maybe I should just explain the possibility of meeting these classmates was as a result of a trip my husband, my daughter, and I were going to take to Mexico to see or to attend my niece's wedding. She had a destination wedding in Mexico. And I thought, well, maybe this is a good opportunity for my daughter to know where I was born and see the place of my birthplace, which is about 2 hours from the place where the wedding was going to take place. And also, I had a year earlier, well, actually more like a year and a half earlier, been in touch with one of my classmates after 20 some years of not talking to her. And I had told her I was planning to go to Mexico for this wedding. And she thought it would be a good opportunity to meet her classmates because they had been getting together. And she thought it would be great for us to all meet while I was down there. So once we started doing the planning and 2.5 years, a year and a half ago when this is prior to COVID. So maybe I was excited, but once it came close to planning it all, then I started getting very nervous, very anxious, really, really anxious. anyway, but I knew I wanted to take my daughter so she could see the birthplace where my parents were from. I was born in Mexico, but I was raised here in California. So on and off, I had visited Mexico. And then I did have the opportunity to go to school my junior and my senior year and finish high school in Mexico. So these are the classmates I've been talking about that I would have the chance to see. And again, I have not been in touch with them for all these years. And so, although it was exciting, it was also very nerve-wracking. And I can just go on and on. So I don't know, Rhonda, you tell me how much more you want me to.
That's plenty, because we want to get into the episode. But I would say that the theme of the episode is one that would be of interest to most of our listeners, that the common theme we see in people struggling with depression and anxiety is I'm not good enough.
Yes.
And I haven't achieved enough, and I'm not as good as other people, and I'm an outsider. And that's a very powerful and compelling theme. And then also the issue is how in Team CBT can you deal with scars from childhood, and doesn't that take a long period of treatment to overcome? Jill, what's your opening remark here?
Well, no, I don't have anything else to add. I thought you were going to ask me, does it take years to overcome? I was going to say, well, let's see. Let's listen to the episode and we'll find out.
Good idea. And in part one, we'll do the T is testing, the E is empathy, and part of the A of the assessment of resistance, going right up to the magic dial. And then in part two next week, you'll see the exciting and really mind-blowing conclusion and follow-up to the session. There's a surprise ending. So you'll see the completion of the A equals assessment of resistance, the M equals methods, and some really fantastic stuff. So I hope you enjoy this, and we're very indebted to you, Sara, and for making yourself vulnerable and giving us this chance to go behind closed doors and participate and witness a very amazing and special event.
Let's take a listen.
So we're working with Sara tonight, and just we're about going over Sara's brief mood survey. We're doing live therapy. Jill and I are going to be co-therapists. And when we did the Interpersonal Downward Arrow to see what role do you play in relationships, using the form I created called the rules and the roles, it kind of hit real hard, Sara. And you wrote us that you were very disturbed, and that you were thinking about the role that you've been playing in groups since you've been a little girl, thinking that for a variety of reasons, bullying and Mexican culture and various things, that you play a kind of a quiet, inferior role, feeling like you're not as good as other people. Mm-hmm. And that it was overwhelming to you when this discovery kind of popped into your brain, and that you wanted to do some live work on it. So that's what brings us to tonight. But when you filled out the brief mood survey, a lot of your intense upset had passed. You're only 2 out of 20 on the depression test, and that's feeling a moderate loss of self-esteem or moderate feelings of inferiority. And then on the anxiety was quite high when you took this test, 17 out of 20 being the worst anxiety a human being can have. Although you emailed me before the group that you were strangely getting not as anxious when thinking about doing live work in the group, which is cool. The anger, which I was happy to see, is 8 out of 20. The happiness, which goes from 0 to 20, was only 9.5, and that's not very good. But the highest rated one was feeling hopeful and optimistic. You feel extremely hopeful, and actually feeling a lot of happiness and joy, but no real self-esteem at all, and not feeling as motivated and productive as you might like, and the pleasure and satisfaction in life is pretty low. Your satisfaction in your marriage is 29.5 out of 30, which is, almost as high as it can get. And you've been doing a lot of homework in the last week or two working on this issue. So with that in mind, having looked at the T, let's go on to the E, and perhaps you can kind of tell us what's been going on and what you've been thinking about, and how you've been feeling, and what you went through. And then once we've kind of tuned in and provided some warmth and support and understand what's going on, then we'll get on to the assessment of resistance and hopefully use some methods. So take it away, Sara, and Jill,
David,
jump in.
David,
yeah.
Just to let you know, or remind you, you're still sharing your screen. So
okay. Yeah,
if you
I'll
don't
stop
want
sharing.
to
Yeah, that's right. And then for the view, we can put it on speaker view, so whoever's speaking will be featured in the photo. But I think what I want to do, I'll be taking notes at any rate, but not sharing my screen. So take it away, Sara and Jill.
Okay. So I'll begin by just doing a little clarification for the brief mood survey, because when I filled this out, this was in the morning, and obviously I was feeling a little different than 2 weeks ago. So I did try to reflect how I was feeling on the anxiety part as I was feeling 2 weeks ago. And although I am not necessarily sad or depressed, I do feel, and when I filled out the happiness section, I realized that I am feeling more a low self-esteem, inferiority, and worthlessness higher than what I had previously wrote down. So on mine, I marked it to a 3, 4, because I do feel very low self-esteem and worthlessness. But the part that David was saying, that I was not as anxious, that meant I was not anxious to come and present to you. And therefore, I think I'm feeling hopeful and optimistic and some joy in facing this fear. Although there's a little bit of anxiety, but not like it would have been maybe 4 years ago before I started group. So I don't feel as anxious right now about that. But I still feel anxious about the situation that brought me to this point. So I'm not even sure where to begin in telling the story, but maybe I begin by last 2 Tuesdays, right? Or not last Tuesday, but the Tuesday when we were in small group. I was in Jill's group along with 3 other group members. And I volunteered to do interpersonal downward arrow because at the time I was feeling all this anxiety and probably more. And I think also the scores are lower because I have been doing quite a bit of work on this for the last 2 weeks. So obviously my thoughts are not as intense, or my feelings are not as intense because I don't believe the thoughts as strong as I did, or some of them I don't even believe anymore. But to give you a little bit of why I volunteer is because that morning I had become extremely anxious and panicky and just was worried and tense about something that was really silly because I knew I could change the facts. It didn't have to be this way. But so it all started with this thought that I was going to be, so my niece is getting married after postponing her wedding for, ever since COVID. And so it's going to be like a year and a half since she's postponed it. So the wedding is in November. And my family, my husband and I and my daughter are going to go down. And the idea came up, I revisited the idea of going to the hometown where I was born in Mexico. I also went to 2 years of high school there. I guess I should explain. I was raised here in Stockton, but we traveled back and forth to Mexico. But my junior and senior year of high school, I spent in Mexico. So I graduated from my high school there. And after high school, I came back and I did my college education here. And I have been to Mexico only a very few times since 1984, a long time ago. So I have not been in touch with hardly anyone. I occasionally stay in touch with relatives, but I have not. My niece is not getting married in the same town nor the same state where my family is from. So the idea of going to visit my family or some of my family that are still there is not as bad. But when I thought about having this little mini reunion with my classmates, it produced all kinds of anxiety to the point where now, as I'm retelling you, I am starting to get very anxious about it again. Although I have already processed a lot of this. So just to make the long story short, this is not even a set in stone thing. It was just even the idea of going and being in contact with these people that produce a lot of anxiety. One, I didn't even need to go. I could just go to the wedding and come back. Two, these people don't even need to know I'm in Mexico, right? But just this idea. And that's when I started to think, this is really out of control. This is, why am I so nervous? I mean, I'm not even set. And I have to say, when my niece originally had her wedding scheduled for November of 2020, I had been in contact, and it was just by chance. I guess I'll call her, I don't like using this word because I haven't been in touch with her, but she was my best friend in high school. I probably, in these years, I probably have had contact with her max 3 times. So I'm talking 30-some years, but she was able to reach out to me via my brother's Facebook. Anyway, she had tried to find me because this group of classmates had created this, let me think of the right way, WhatsApp group, and she wanted me to be part of it. And so she reached out to me. I don't do social media. I just don't. And so the way we connected was my brother gave her my phone number. She called me. We talked for about an hour, and it was great. And it was a nice thing to reconnect. But she was insisted that I sign up for this WhatsApp. And I just was not interested. And although at the moment I told her, okay, I'll look into it. Deep inside my heart, I knew I would not do it. So then I emailed her a few days later, and I said, when I come to Mexico in November, of course, this is before COVID and before the wedding got rescheduled. I had told her, that I would love to see them. And when I was there, or when I went to Mexico, that I would make a trip to the town where I was born, and maybe we could all get together. And so I told her at that moment, my email, that I was not interested in joining WhatsApp. And I told her my reasons. And then I said, but I'd love to keep in touch. And I will let you know, when we're in Mexico or we're heading to Mexico so we can make arrangements. But the part that was very disappointed, and then I lost contact with her, or for this last year and a half, I have not been in touch. She responded, and she said she understood, but she also understood I was always very stubborn, and that she was kind of disappointed that I was not going to join them. And that really hit me really hard, because I thought, well, I haven't talked to her for so long, and here she's calling me stubborn. But when I was in small group, we went over this, and I could see what Jill said something very beautiful that it hit me. And she said, well, maybe she's just so disappointed. She wants you so bad to join the group that, she's really trying her best. And then I saw it from her perspective, and I thought, okay, I can see. But nonetheless, when I read, you're so stubborn, it just did not make me feel good at all. But so in essence, that's why I volunteer, because that morning I had just been too preoccupied and too anxious just with the idea that I could possibly see these people. And again, it's not even, there's nothing even scheduled, there's nothing, I don't even have any set plans to go. Although after the group, I am convinced that that's one thing I want to do. And I think that's also why I wanted to do the live work, because I really not only want this to be a positive experience of me going to Mexico, especially because we're flying to Mexico. I haven't been to Mexico since I think 2002. So it's been, almost 20 years since I've been there. And I haven't even been to my hometown since 1994. So it's been a long, long time. So having this opportunity to go to my niece's wedding and being able to spend a few days, which is only 2 hours from where my niece is getting married. It's only 2 hours from the town I was born in. And so it would be very neat to take my daughter, who's 20, to see where I was born, to maybe meet some of the people I knew when I was a little girl, but and some of the relatives that still live there. But and again, I think I am to the point where I want to do this, but I also don't want to feel all these, just negative emotions that just flood me. And although it's about that, it really is about the whole picture. I no longer want to feel like a failure. I no longer want to feel like I'm an outsider and I'm just not good enough. And I think that's really what came up during the group. And if you see, we are not in the daily mood light, but let me go over the daily mood light. You could see the different thoughts that I've been giving myself, and I'm just ready to move past that and to let go of myself, or myself. I don't know. I could just go on and on, but that's in a nutshell what transpired.
Well, one thing that I think you sent in your emails that would also be important, particularly from the role of the hidden emotion model in triggering intense anxiety, is that maybe you're also feeling some anger, and you talked about being bullied and mean things that people said to you. And can you talk just a little about that part?
Oh yeah, that, I think that was the heart of this whole thing, is that when I did the Interpersonal Downward Arrow with Jill and my small group, what I came to the conclusion is that I have been all my life living in this role or rule that I need to be an outsider and not part of the group, because I'm just not good enough. So in exploring what that was about, so one of the homework exercise that Jill gave me was to do a daily mood log regarding that specific thought, and the other thoughts that had come up, and those roles that I was living by, which it really was 2 in 1, or maybe I have written one of them or 2 of them in the daily mood log, and part of what came up is, and I was writing this email to Jill, which I had, and Jill had asked me to write an email to both her and David about what had transpired in our small group. And it took me probably the whole week to actually sit down and write it. Although I had already done my daily mood, like I just couldn't get to the computer and do it. And as I was writing it, I figured out why. Just a flood of emotions came. I was crying nonstop. I could barely type. But I wanted so bad to get this out and tell David and Jill, what had transpired. But what really came up that was very, very hurtful was this image of me I'm sorry.
Just let the tears flow. Yeah. You're doing the right thing, and you're doing a great job. Just feel the images, see the images, and feel the sadness, maybe the hurt, the anger, whatever. Just let it flow. Just notice what you're thinking and feeling.
So I just see this little girl being laughed at. And on one part of me is telling myself, well, you didn't even experience that harsh of a trauma like your siblings did. Why are you so touched by this? But because it's really horrible, the kind of tease I got. But when I think about what others have gone through, especially my family, I mean that really, I tell myself that's nothing. But nonetheless, the feelings of pain are there. And I had shared with Jill and David that what came up, I was bullied and laughed at a lot. I'm a slow learner. I'm sorry. Obviously, that's still very painful. So I'm a slow learner. Therefore, I was always thought I was stupid and dumb, and I just have had a hard time with that because I was made fun of. I'm sorry.
You're doing great.
Take your time. Yeah, it's totally fine, Sara.
I know.
I'm getting everything down too while you're talking.
Thank you. It's amazing that this other side of me says, oh, well, that's nothing compared to, sexual abuse or physical abuse, although I did experience some physical abuse, but that's nothing compared to how painful it feels to be laughed at or to be made less, make feel like you're less than because you're not right or you don't succeed or you don't understand things right away. And so I was ridiculed a lot. And then physically, I in the Mexican culture, and I'm sure in many other cultures, being dark, short, and overweight or chubby as I was as a young girl, it's not favored. It's other. It's looked down upon. And I come from a family of 8. There's 8 of us, 4 girls and 4 boys, and we all have. Although we're similar, we all have different shades of color. So I'm not necessarily the darkest in my family, but I am one of the darker ones. And so that was always, I don't know, judged, criticized, or looked down upon. And so what hurts is to think as, I guess that's the cruelty in it all, to think that I chose to be this color, I didn't. But part of growing up, I always tried to stay out of the sun just so I wouldn't get darker, so you adjust to these things and or you modify it. And the one thing I was sharing with David and Jill is that when I was young, in my head, although I didn't know it was called a learning disability, but in my head I always thought, oh, one day I'm going to show these people that I'm not as stupid as they think I am. And I think it was the main motivation for me to go to college and to kind of prove to people that I could do this. I could do better than they expected me to. And when I talk about people, I really talk about my extended family, as well as my immediate family, my siblings, and including my parents. But, I just can't help but to think, well, gee, Sarah, that's nothing compared to what other people's traumas have been. But I also think this reflects of why I've always felt like an outsider, like I had to stay outside of a group so I wouldn't be criticized. And so I would protect myself from judgment and criticism. I don't know if I'm forgetting something else that I had shared with you, Jill or David, if you want to jump in. My head is just a little boggled right now with all the emotions that have just fled up.
Well, it's just so powerful what you're saying, and I'm hearing two things from you, really. One is all the tremendous pain that you went through, that you were bullied and laughed at, and made to think that you were stupid and dumb, and your skin was too dark, and you're chubby, and something else. Let's see, you were
short.
Yeah, dark, short, and chubby, right? And that while the pain that you felt and the pain that you feel right now is extremely intense and extremely real, that then a part of you second guesses yourself and say, well, what I went through isn't so bad compared to what other people have gone through. So that you tend, in a sense, you might say, to bully yourself a little bit too. And that rather than giving yourself love and compassion and support the way you deserve, and that your pain has been incredible, and this has become a dominating theme of your life. That this is your interpersonal downward arrow. That the rule is that your role is to be short, chubby, and dark and not bright, and then and an outsider, right? And then to be not loved, not respected, and then the role of other people is to kind of say cruel things to you and to put you down and to exclude you and to want to hurt you. And then those two roles, the emotions, are all the emotions in the book, except for anger, which is probably the most intense of it all, but maybe totally suppressed and hidden because that's too dangerous to be angry. You've got to hide that. But you're depressed, and when you're in this, thinking about this, and extremely anxious and ashamed, probably, I'm just guessing, and feeling alone and unwanted and rejected, and feeling defective and inadequate and probably unlovable and inferior. And as you say, not good enough, and probably humiliated, and also the hope now that you're working with Jill and David, but I'm sure throughout your life have felt kind of hopeless and demoralized, and like this is kind of some horrible, inevitable role that you're in, and maybe frustrated and hurt and angry and resentful and ticked off and defeated. I'm wondering how accurate that is. I'm speculating a little bit about your emotions and thoughts and feelings, but how accurate is that?
Very accurate. Very accurate.
And you know that you're one of my favorite people, and so I'm really sad to hear all of the things that you've been through. But at the same time, I have to admit that I'm very happy right now and excited for you, because I think this is going to be already is a tremendous thing in your life, and maybe kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity or event to transform your vision and understanding of who you are and what your role is. But I know right now you're feeling a lot of pain. I'm going to let Jill take over for a minute or two here, because I'm kind of hogging the show. But I just want you to know that I care about you so much, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm oddly, very excited for you. I hope that doesn't sound cheap or something.
No, I understand what you're saying, because I was feeling very happy and excited about doing this, and very optimistic. And I think it's because I no longer want to feel this. So that hope of getting over this need to not be a failure, not be an outsider, to just overcome that. And, you talk about the death of the self, the death of the ego. And that's really although we're not there yet, but that's really my optimal goal tonight, is to be able to just kill it and move on with just being at ease with myself and not having to look for approval and all the different. Yep. And I sent you and Jill the different self-defeating beliefs, and that's just it. I just want to. So I understand what you're saying. You have joy and hope for me, and I have it for myself too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in a little bit, but I think you did a beautiful job, David and Sarah, certainly in sharing so much of yourself. So yeah, I want to echo what David said, which is I feel really glad to have the opportunity to work with you, Sarah. It was such a joy for the four of us who got a chance to work with you a couple of weeks ago to sort of uncover this pattern, and really kind of amazing to see just how much was underneath, so much that you've been carrying around with you, basically, right? That you've been so burdened by this for such a long time, and just the depth of emotion that, has come out as you've talked about, just about basically seeing people from high school, right? So maybe I'll just comment a little more with sort of some thought and feeling empathy about the current event, right? So it sounds like you're sharing with us that there's this possibility essentially of meeting up with people from high school, and that your best friend from high school that you were friends with for junior and senior year has been kind of pursuing you and really wanting to see you, wanting you to join the group and be a part of things and join the WhatsApp group. And you've been pretty reluctant and kind of resistant and kind of putting her off a little bit. And maybe that didn't quite hit you as deeply just with her pursuing you. But as soon as there was this possibility of going back to your hometown and not only seeing your immediate family, which probably is pretty stressful also, since they were the source of a lot of the bullying, but going back and seeing these, friends or acquaintances or people from high school, it is in fact a lot of people's kind of scary. We have a feared fantasy called the high school reunion feared fantasy. So that you're sharing something in common with a lot of people, this idea of seeing people that I knew, whatever, 20, 30, 40, however many years ago, and sort of wanting them to see me in a certain way and feeling like I'm actually not quite the way I would want them to see me. So there was some of that going on, but you realized it went even deeper, where you were really feeling not good enough, right? Really feeling that they're going to judge you and look down on you, and feeling like a failure. And these are some of the things that you put on your daily mood log, that that everyone will see that I'm a failure, that I am a failure, that I should have been more successful, that people will judge me because I wasn't as successful as I should be. And as you say, it stems not only from maybe some bullying in school, but even from being teased and bullied within your own family, and just really kind of growing up not feeling good enough and not feeling good enough about your body and not feeling good enough about your brain, right? Like people also feeling, so that, I mean, just the idea of feeling not good enough in your body and not good enough in terms of your academic skills sounds, really kind of heartbreaking and really, really hard. And that it still really kind of haunts you to this day.
And I would add to that it haunts you or has the potential to haunt you at every minute of every day, more or less.
Right.
It does. And I should clarify that. So I'm very close to my immediate family, which is my siblings and their children. And although a lot of the bullying did happen within my siblings and my parents are not gone, but it is the extended family that I don't think I have ever been able to, not that there needs to be reconciliation, but I never been able to feel comfortable around them so much that some of them that live here in the States, I only have a few family that I stay in touch in Mexico, or I really hardly do. I mean, I have lots of family in Mexico, but I really don't stay in touch. Unlike my siblings, they do. All my siblings live here in the States. Well, my sister lives in Germany, but anyway, that's not here nor there. But the thing is that when there has been gatherings here, along with what you're saying, David, when my siblings, not my siblings, my extended family have had gatherings, social gatherings of whatever sort of family, and my siblings go to it. But as soon as I know if it's one of my siblings hosting it and they invite the extended family, if I know who they've invited, I just choose not to go. I purposely don't go. So I'm not around these people. I go to my siblings gatherings if it's just them and their immediate family. But any extended family, I just can't seem to have any interest. And I just wanted to clear that up. But,
right. So it's not, it's very important to you that we don't have this impression that it's still your siblings that you're struggling with, but it's this extended family, meaning aunts, uncles, cousins, things like that, that live in Mexico, that you have a more difficult relationship with, that you feel judged by. And that's also a group of people that you're not in close contact with. And so you sort of avoid them. And so, as is the case with avoidance too, you're saying, right? There's just this sort of like fear of being around that the extended family that still lives in your hometown of Mexico.
Yeah. And the extended family that lives here in the States, like cousins that live here in the States and do have a relationship with my siblings. I just don't have that with them.
You don't feel safe.
And I finally realized why I had been avoiding these gatherings, and people just thought I was antisocial or too arrogant for them, or not arrogant, but like too good for them. So I must be this arrogant person why I don't join them. And anyhow, but I just wanted to make it clear that it's more the extended family, and in this particular case, the classmates and.
So they don't really understand why you've been avoiding them.
No, I don't think so. I think they see it more as I'm too good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask.
Maybe we can check in with Sarah on how we're doing with empathy, right? Is now a good time to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, go ahead, David.
Definitely. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just would you give us an A, a B, a C, D? How are we doing? Are we missing anything?
Definitely an A+.
Thank you. Why?
Well, I feel heard. I feel like you get the feelings. And one thing that was very beautiful is that you didn't dismiss that, although I tell myself, and the way you put it so beautifully, that here I'm bullying my own self, saying that my pain is not even that, it shouldn't be that severe since I did not experience extreme trauma like my siblings might have, or other people that I know, or even some of the clients that I work with. So you validated that even as minor of a trauma in my eyes, it's still painful. And I think you sorting it up that way and saying that I'm even bullying myself, I really like that. It resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, so. Cool. That's great. This reminds me of the tumor that we finally got you to get rid of. Yeah. Except this is like a 35-year, 45-year tumor.
Yes.
And
yes, exactly.
We're doing our psychic surgery. We're removing that tumor tonight.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you ready?
I believe so. Yes.
Cool. What would happen if at the end of the evening tonight you said, "Boy, that was a terrific experience." What would happen? We can't promise miracles, but if a miracle did happen, what miracle would you be hoping for?
I think I stated it in a different way, and this might come out of the blue, but it's not. It's something that I feel very strong about, but I would not be feeling jealous anymore. And I would I will not feel like a failure and like not good enough. And I think what I would like is just not to care if I am a failure, and not to care if I'm not good enough. And like I said in my email, I just want that to be good enough, that it doesn't matter. If I'm not good enough to anyone,
Sarah, you said, actually, you answered that David just offered you the miracle cure question, and you actually gave us a very beautiful answer earlier, and I wrote it down. You said, I want to be at ease with myself and not need other people's approval. And so, I mean, you're saying it again beautifully too. I want to not feel jealous, not feel like a failure, not feel good enough. So the reverse of it is I want to feel comfortable and at ease with who I am, whatever that is, right? I don't need to be A, B, or C in order to feel good enough. I just am.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yes, thank you, Jill.
Now, let's say that we could press our magic button, something you're very familiar with, and all these feelings of jealousy and feeling like a failure and feeling not good enough would disappear, and you'd suddenly feel joyous and at ease with yourself, and you wouldn't need other people's approval. Would you press that button?
I want to say absolutely, but I do know that it's important to keep some of the feelings. Well, for the sake of the recording, yes, yes, I will press it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's since you kind of know the routine here a little bit, why don't we make a list of positives? Now, I'm typing simultaneously while we're talking, so every now and then I look at you, like right now. But now I'm going to go back and work, on the notes here. But let's make a list. I've got my list started of three questions we want to ask to bring out some positives in these feelings. And I might say here, if I can put on my glasses, that on your daily mood log, Jill wrote your negative thoughts, but the feelings are sad, 80%, anxious, panicky, nervous, 100%, bad and ashamed, 100%, inferior, worthless, inadequate, defective, incompetent, 100%, lonely, rejected, alone, 100%, embarrassed. See, when I was telling your emotions, I was just speculating before. Embarrassed, foolish, and self-conscious, 100%, pessimistic 100%, stuck 100, angry at self 100, avoidance, insecure, grief, and disappointment 100%. And the one you omitted here is anger at others. What's that one?
Oh, I think I put angry at self.
I understand.
Oh, but you're saying that I'm not angry at others?
Yeah, I'm just asking about the one you artfully avoided.
Well, right. And if you think about it, Sarah, it's kind of, we did this when we did the interpersonal downward arrow. Like how do you feel when you imagine that others are judging you, looking down on you, thinking that you're stupid and
bullying you?
Yeah, and not that you don't measure up. How do you feel toward those others?
Yes, very angry. Mm-hmm. Although I can say that, but I am burying it because I don't feel it. I'm gonna say yes.
So let's just accept the fact that you don't feel any anger. But our question would be, if you did feel some anger right now, how strong would that be between 0 and 100?
Yeah, I want to feel that anger. I should be feeling angry.
Sure. And how angry between 0 and 100 should you be feeling?
100.
Yeah, great. Absolutely. Does that thought bring tears to your eyes? Just let those tears come, flow. I've been through a little of what you've been through, but not nearly. But I had a lot of teasing when I was a kid too, and because I had several siblings who were adopted because my parents couldn't have children, and then I was born unexpectedly, and in the meanwhile they'd adopted three children, and they knew they were adopted, and they knew I was natural born one, but I didn't know any of that, and so they teased me pretty heavily all the time, when I was growing up. And I didn't find out until 10 years old what the truth was. And all I knew was that I was also like an outsider, like I was just teased, and they were just always putting me down. I was probably just spoiled and unpleasant. And I'm still pretty unpleasant person, hard to get along with, but I did experience that, and the only one who really supported me was my mother's father, my grandfather, who lived in our basement in Denver. He seemed pretty elderly. He had a cane and everything like that, but he taught me how to do a somersault, and he said, someday you're going to be very successful, and then the tables will be turned, type of thing. And so I really appreciated that. But I think you had it a lot worse than I did.
I love your story, David, and I appreciate it because I can relate what he was telling you, that the tables would be around, is what I've been telling myself all this time, just so I could be in survival mode, just being able to get ahead and push myself.
I think Sarah shared with me anyway, or at least I read it in one of these, though, that's maybe part of what causes you even more pain, Sarah, though, is because you told yourself, I'll show them. And now you don't feel that you can show them. In other words, like Sarah had this sort of powerful message, right? I'll rise above it. I'll show them. I'll be uber successful, and then I'll come back and rub it in their faces. Yeah. But she at least doesn't feel uber successful. And so I think, Sarah, I can see that you're having a lot of pain as I'm saying that, but that it almost exacerbates your pain because you wanted to be in a place to be above it, and you don't feel like you're in that place.
Exactly. And I think this is why I just shouldn't care. I shouldn't, I'll just say it, although it's going to be recorded, but I just shouldn't give a shit what others think,
Right.
And whether I'm successful or not, I just want to live humbly and modestly and not worry about these things.
Right.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
I have to show anyone.
And not have to show. Right. You want, as you said, you don't want to give a shit what anyone thinks. You don't want to have to prove yourself. You don't want to have to show anyone. You feel that way, but you'd like to shed that feeling of like, I'm better or I'm worse, or like you just want it all to sort of not matter.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That sounds beautiful. And I can almost feel the weight would be lifted, right? If you could get to a place where you just didn't care.
Yes.
And we would love that for you too.
Now, before we get to that place, and let's talk about some of these negative states you're stuck in and what's positive about them. Let's starting with the sadness is what 100 or 80%, very, very intense. What are some, there's 3 questions to ask yourself about each emotion. And you can ask these about each negative thought. Question number 1, why is this feeling appropriate in my case? Question number 2, what does this feeling show about me and my core values that's positive and awesome? And question number 3 is, how might this feeling be helping me and maybe be of some benefit to me? Starting with sadness, can you think of any positives about your sadness, Sara?
Well, I guess it shows that I care about myself and others.
Is that true? Do you care about yourself and others?
Yes.
Is that important?
I believe so.
Is it real?
Yes.
Is it powerful?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a good one. Can you think of other good things about your sadness? What it shows about you that's positive and awesome, or ways it might be helpful to you? Because I can think of a lot of positives about your sadness. Even though it's horribly painful for you and has been for decades, but can you see what it shows about you that's pretty positive and awesome, or it's helpful? And I can help you out if you're drawing a blank.
Well, I guess I'm a little puzzled because I had done a positive reframing, but primarily on my thoughts. But I was not sure if I should even look at that, just so I would have like a fresh start. So,
well, you can pull it out if you have it. I don't think I have a copy of it. At least
no,
not
I
in my hands.
I didn't send that to.
Oh, okay.
I didn't send that to you and Jill, but
you feel free to pull it up.
Well, I think maybe I'll just work on this one since we're working more on feelings, and I did more on the thoughts.
Sure.
Like, for example, Sara, well, we're talking about sadness. It's totally fine to think of the thoughts that drive the sadness when you're trying to answer this question. So, like when you tell yourself, I'm a failure, which makes you feel really sad, what does that show about you that's really kind of beautiful and awesome?
Maybe that I have high standards and that I'm motivated to do better.
Yeah. So that you have high standards. Absolutely, because you're telling yourself that you're a failure, meaning you're not good enough, and also that's a positive value. And then also you're saying maybe a benefit of telling myself I'm a failure, being so self-critical, is that it motivates me to do better. That's what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. And are those things true? Is that do you have high standards? Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah. And is that a positive thing? Is that a good thing?
Oh,
having
yes.
high standards?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that comes to, well, you're writing these down. Tell me when you're ready for some more.
Yes, I'm ready. I do.
How would you say that you're a person of great compassion? You show compassion for others who are suffering? You feel compassion?
Sometimes.
Like when you're doing therapy?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh. Is that important?
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we all feel compassion for everyone all the time. We have some people that tick us off.
Yeah. Well, I was
Right?
thinking how I don't have compassion for myself, and I guess I was saying,
yeah.
I'm so compassionate with others, but I can't even be compassionate with myself.
Right.
Compassion for others who are suffering. Is that fair?
Yes.
And another thing that shows that's beautiful and awesome about you, it seems to me that you're a person of humility rather than someone who's kind of arrogant.
Like when you tell yourself that you're a failure, is that you being arrogant or kind of humble?
Humble.
Yeah.
And I strive for that, although I don't think I always succeed. But yes, that's important to me. Yeah.
Your own assessment of yourself may be quite different from others, mine or Jill's. When you say I'm a failure, would it be fair to say that you're looking at your flaws and shortcomings?
Yes, I'm being realistic.
Yeah, realistic about flaws and shortcomings. Would these negative thoughts and feelings show as well that you're accountable?
Accountable.
In other words, instead of blaming the world, you're looking inwardly.
Yes, all the time.
Is that a good thing?
Yes, it's a great thing. Yes.
Yeah. What else do your negative thoughts? When you say, this thought, I shouldn't get close to people so I won't be criticized and judged. That shows that you care about yourself, right? And that you want to protect yourself.
Yes.
Is that a good thing?
Yes.
So I'll put that down. That's number 8 on my list. Want to protect myself from further harm. That's certainly a good thing.
What about, let's see, I wonder if Sarah can generate. I feel like we're telling her all of them.
I'm sorry. Shut up, David.
No, it's not shut up. I just wonder if we can get Sarah to identify any herself. Like, I wonder when you feel guilty, like what can you think about? What does your guilt or your shame show about you that's beautiful and awesome?
Well, I think I don't, when I feel guilty, I think of myself of being responsible for my own actions and not wanting to hurt others or be I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry.
Well, you just said a lot, actually. So you're saying it shows, you said my guilt shows that I'm responsible for my own actions. So it's kind of like the one David brought up being, or maybe you said it, being accountable. So responsible.
No, David said yes.
Okay. So responsible for my own actions or accountable.
And also you said, and I don't want to hurt others. That seemed pretty important too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that you care a lot about others, that you're...
I care about others, yes.
Thoughtful, maybe?
Yes.
And does it also, are there any benefits? Do you think that there's any benefit to feeling kind of ashamed? How does that work for you? I could see some ways it could like actually help you in some way.
I'm really drawing a blank right now. Not sure.
Like, what kind of behavior? What do you do when you feel kind of ashamed? Do you end up going out and doing stuff or staying in?
When I feel ashamed?
Mm-hmm. I guess, like, for example,
I have a question for Sara right now. One of your thoughts is, I guess you're telling yourself, I'm not smart enough or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And are you feeling on the spot right now, telling yourself something like that right now?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
David, did you just climb out of there and got in my head? Because that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So let's write that down on your list of negative thoughts. And so it's what did you put? Like I'm on the spot and I'm not smart enough right now, or something like that, or I'm not good enough.
Yes.
Or what?
I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
I can't respond intelligently, I guess.
Yeah, that's number 2. I'm making a new list of negative thoughts. I can't respond intelligently. And then do I have any concerns with how David and Jill are thinking about me right now, and then the group?
No, that is okay. No, just trying to come up with smart things to answer for the
but then what will happen?
Reframing.
Sure. And what will happen if you can't come up with things that are smart?
Well, I must really be dumb that I can't come up with my own thoughts.
Put that down, number 3. Number 3, I must really be dumb since I can't come up with my own ideas and thoughts, right?
Yes, especially not fast enough.
Number 4 is I'm not fast enough. And then when you tell yourself these things, when they were just going through your mind, were you believing them 100%?
Yes, but I was also boggled by all that in my head that I couldn't even focus on what Jill was asking me. So yes.
Yeah. And then did that create a lot of panic and anxiety?
Confusion, yes, and starting to feel a little nervous, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So that phenomenon is just always there, and the fact that you're feeling really anxious and on the spot and not smart enough. What does that show about you that's positive and awesome?
That I have high standards and want to perform well.
Yes.
Which I guess we already said the high standards.
Well, yeah, but we can put number 10. I want to perform well, and why do you want to perform well right now?
Well, I think part of it I want to heal well, and then hoping that by learning what's beneficial of this, not only will it help me heal, but also it'll be a good session or a good learning class for everyone.
So it shows, yeah. So why do you want to have a good learning class for everyone, a good session for everyone?
Because I don't want to waste people's time. I want it to be meaningful for them too.
Yes, that's number 11. I want this to be meaningful for the class, and Is it also true that I want to do a good job for Jill and David?
Yeah, I guess that's part of the packet.
Why do you want to do a good job for Jill and David? What does that show about you?
That I care about you both.
Can you put that down as number 12?
Mm-hmm.
I really care about Jill and David. So you're saying that one of the things about your anxiety and getting all panicky and confused, that's an expression of the fact that you really care about Jill and David. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think so.
Is that important?
Yes.
Is that powerful?
Yes.
Is that real?
Definitely, yes.
What are some other things that these negative thoughts and feelings show about you that's really positive, like your anger, your hopelessness, your inferiority, your loneliness, your frustration? Any of these, or any of your negative thoughts? What are some more really neat things that they show about you?
Well, when you said about the anger, what came to mind is fairness, trying to be fair, and try to be fair and just, not only with myself but with others.
Yeah, that's right. Now, is that true?
Yes.
Is that important?
Yes, very much so.
So you say that your anger toward other people is based on your feelings of fairness and justice. Is that right?
Yes, because they didn't treat me fairly and kind.
I see. So is that important?
Yes, very much so.
Is that powerful?
Yes.
Is that real?
Yes.
So you say you have a lot of powerful and important anger. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's beautifully putting it. Yeah, important. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And one of the reasons is from a teaching point for some of the students. Jill knows this very well, but the only people. Well, the Buddha said this 2,500 years ago after a visit to Mexico. People are not aware that he visited Mexico. And he said, only the nicest people develop anxiety. That's what he said 2,500 years ago. And that's this thing where hiding behind all this intense anxiety, you see is some pretty intense anger toward these people, and that's, I suspect, one of the reasons why you're afraid to visit them. When I was in medical school, I cut most of my classes because I never should have gone to medical school, and I wasn't pre-med, I just hated it. But I got involved with this thing in Palo Alto called the Human Institute. This crazy guy, Hussein Chung, ran it, and he ran these marathons, these psychodrama marathons that were very, very dramatic and frightening. And I was kind of naive. And once I was just to a 3-hour weekend encounter group there, and there was this guy, Vic Lovell, who was there. And he was also a psychodrama leader, and I think I'd been to one of his encounter groups, and he kind of really put me down, and I left the group his group feeling humiliated, embarrassed. And when I saw him, there were about 30 people in a circle, and when I saw him, I started getting terribly anxious, just scared, and there was a fellow who was helping me named Sergio, who's one of the psychodrama leaders, and he kind of took me under his wing. And I said, Sergio, I'm really scared to death right now. I'm just so anxious. And I said, well, he said, why? And I said, well, that's because Vic Lovell, he put me down in this encounter group, last week or whenever it was. And, I'm just terrified. And Sergio said, oh, well, actually, your anxiety is just a form of excitement, and you're probably really angry with them. So I'll tell you what to do. When the encounter group starts, jump out in the middle and grab him by the neck and pull him out into the middle of the circle and tell him, I've got a bone to pick with you. I'm pissed off at you. And I said, I'm supposed to do something like that? I'm a peace-loving fellow. I don't do. Sergio said, I'm telling you what you need to do. So I did it. When Hussein started, says, anyone have had anything they want to work on? I went over and grabbed him by the neck and pulled him into the middle of the circle and says, I've got a bone to pick with you. I'm pissed off at you. And the guy just wimped out. And he got so scared. He didn't know what a wimp I was. He just kind of petered out and crawled back to his place on the edge. And I just went to the edge and I've just felt fantastic. I don't know why I told you that story. It's probably irrelevant, right?
Well, I was thinking, should I do the same? Go find all these people that have that I felt have hurt me and just grab them by the neck and say, I have a bone to pick with you.
Exactly. That's technique number 127 on my list. Or maybe some, kindly equivalent of it. Notice how you're laughing.
Yes.
Yeah, that is kind of putting things in a different perspective.
Absolutely.
I love that.
What comes to light is how buried this anger I've had. I think I shared with you and Jill on that email, but Jill already knows that during that small group, what really came up in terms of feelings, which is not on the daily mood log, is grief. I was surprised how much grief came up, as well as the feeling lonely. Those two really just popped up, and this now, as we're going through this anger, that yes, I felt anger, but I was feeling anger towards me for putting myself in these positions or whatever, but or even being anxious. I was kind of angry at myself for being anxious about something that could be so exciting and positive.
Yeah. But you know what they call you behind your back?
What's that?
You know what we call you behind your back?
Oh, I love to know.
Ninja.
Ninja,
Ninja, the warrior.
Why is that?
Well, because you're very powerful.
Oh, wow.
And I've seen you be very brave, facing, standing up in intensives and in front of huge numbers of people and being incredibly courageous. And you are very powerful and very smart. You just haven't noticed that over the years. And so if you do have some encounters with those people, you know who I'm betting on.
Well, thank you for your confidence.
Do you like that?
I like that, but I still don't believe the smart part, but yeah.
No? Well, we'll prove it to you shortly, but we've got to move on with our agenda here. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
I just wanted to say one more thing, which is I do think, though, that there were people obviously in your life, Sarah, that were pretty nasty and kind of bullying of you, but essentially most of the rest of your life you've spent kind of bullying yourself, right? So I understand why at present a lot of your anger, right, is also kind of toward yourself, right? Because you're sort of keeping all that negativity alive. And in fact, it sounded like from what you described that it wasn't even like this friend of yours from high school was a good friend, not a bully, right? And other people from high school too maybe weren't awful to you. And so I was also thinking that one of the benefits really of putting yourself down and being so critical and judgmental of yourself is that it protects you, from getting hurt by other people. And I do think that's a pretty powerful benefit, right? That you've been really working very hard to protect yourself for a lot of years. And even the idea of that's why coming up with this idea of would I go to my high school reunion, that's so out of my comfort zone, right? I've been trying to just kind of like no social media, no this, no that, like keep everybody at a distance and feel like an outsider, because that's better than, letting people in and then potentially getting hurt or bullied or that kind of thing. Yes. Is that true that a lot of these negative thoughts and feelings have been although very painful, they're extremely protective of you?
Very protective. Yeah. It just resonates with me completely. Very protective. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I have to say too that when I have let my guard down, I have gotten hurt. But again, we all know it's because of what I'm telling myself. But yes, I have felt, and yes, I want to also, I'm glad you brought that up, because it wasn't the high school kids that were necessarily teasing me. It was my younger years, but by that time, I think I had built that wall already to know.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.